Hey everyone, welcome to 10 Questions with Amplience. We're really excited to be joined by Will Behunin today. Will's Director of Digital Platforms at Traeger Grills. Hey Will, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we are both in our Zoom rooms. I'm in my basement. You're in what looks like one of the additional rooms in your house.
Yep.
It's the, I did shave for this though, so I look nice and clean. You are looking pretty good too. My hair is getting a little unwieldy. So we're obviously living in strange days here. COVID-19's changed how we work here at Amplience. I'm sure it's changed things at Traeger. Tell us a bit about how you, as a team, you're adapting, and Traeger as well as a company.
No, it's kind of in some respects nice to work for a company that deals with a product that cooks food, because it gives us a great excuse to do our product testing quite heavily from home.
Yeah.
So we had a big website launch recently, and we had
tell me more about that,
launch.
please. Yeah.
Right. Funny you should ask. And but yeah, leading up to the launch, it was multiple times a day just running out on the back patio, throwing some ribs or some wings on the grill. So
I love it.
And it's kind of fun. The entire team, we're all we eat our own dog food, so we've all got Traegers, and we all enjoy the product from that perspective. But yeah, it's been challenging in some respects. I'm sure everyone feels it with the remote work, but luckily the team that we have is very comfortable and familiar with working remotely, and we've been able to, especially since launching on Amplience, we've been in a good cadence where every day we're making releases to prod, so haven't seen too much of a dip in terms of productivity.
Yeah, and things are, I assume people are buying those pellets nonstop as they burn through them and they're eating every meal at home.
Oh yeah, I'm sure many people were a little unsure of what would happen, and they were kind of wait and see what would be the impact, to sales. But we've been seeing really healthy growth, and Traeger Nation has been stepping up and cooking more at home and embracing the quarantine life. So
good. Well, it's good to have some positive news with the quarantine world that we live in. So obviously, any changes that you do to this, your lifestyle, your community, the brand of Traeger that's out there, it's going to have a lot of impact and a lot of eyeballs on it. Any anecdotal feedback, anything that's going on since the launch, from anything from performance to feedback from the community?
There's always hiccups and glitches when you completely re-architect and move to a new platform, right? Surprise. But overall, I would say it's been a pretty positive experience. We took some benchmarks of site performance and site speed, and literally 100 times faster than, we're 100% faster than, sorry, 100%.
Say 100 times I was gonna quote you on that one potentially. That's
right?
Great.
That's the end goal.
Yeah.
But 100% faster, literally twice as fast, if not more. So it's been pretty positive. The facelift that we put onto the site, just a bunch of feedback in terms of looks great. There's still a lot of things that we need to do and we'll take care of, and we're in a world where we can move a lot faster.
That's great. So we kind of have our own little community as well of folks in the headless world, right? Amplience is certainly a big part of that. You all have been big leaders there. But we're starting to see a lot of non-technical folks start to kind of perk their ears up when they hear the term. Curious for you all, how do you actually articulate this when you had to go to the business and say, hey, we got to re-platform our site, we got to redo it, and we're going to go headless? What were the things that you kind of talked about with them?
Yeah, turns out focusing the conversation on money is a good way to
not that it's going to cost them, but it's going to actually help them, right? So
exactly. Site speed, the faster your site, there's statistics and stuff out there that shows the faster your site, the less people will trip or bounce, and definitely been seeing that, where we've been having record-breaking sales days. Part of that's probably a little bit of Corona, people cooking at home more often,
Yeah.
But, I'd like to think a lot of that is also due to the increase of site speed. So
Yeah.
nice to know that in those communications, we weren't necessarily blowing smoke, but yeah, so focusing those conversations around site speed, for us, the objective and the main power that we saw with Amplience was powering our content in a headless way, to where it's not tied to a specific view. So we have a native mobile app, we have, obviously our website. As we start to increase the amount of displays that we are going to provide, Traeger content and services to, being able to define that once and have it show everywhere, that's huge for brand consistency. That's huge for team enablement and just overall agility of getting that content where it needs to go.
Yeah, and you can be honest, is headless a term that anyone uses inside Traeger, or is that mostly an industry term? You can.
Yeah, no, we've been trying to pioneer it. Part of it's to be buzzwordy and sound cool.
Yeah.
People hear, oh, headless. Whoa, what does that mean? So
fair enough. Yeah.
It definitely takes an explanation, but.
Fair enough. Yeah, and honestly, like, you guys are ahead of the curve with all this, right? This isn't necessarily your first rodeo with headless. What did you talk to us, like? What did you learn, or what did you want to do differently this time? Because you kind of had I'd say a pretty headless solution before moving to this new Amplience way, right?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing I would say that we looked at this time was standing up an API layer in between all of the services. It makes it a lot more efficient for us to, program and code all of our content and other requests for that matter through a single API layer. That way, heaven forbid, we decide to move off of market our list track for email automation and move to some other service. We don't have to go back to all of our different code bases and now write new APIs to communicate with the new service, right? Everybody hits one endpoint, and then that API layer communicates out. Yeah.
So last time they were kind of a little bit more tightly coupled between the headless platform and the front end itself. Okay. Yeah, and that kind of gets to where we're seeing a lot of value that we can create for clients is certainly in this world of kind of headless experience management, where we're not just doing content but also helping with the layering. Talk to me about what you heard or what you saw from Amplience that kind of made you want to partner with us, or that were things that were interesting, and what you how we kind of fit into your vision.
Yeah. I think probably the biggest thing is we were, evaluating partners with this, was trying to avoid a pendulum swing, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about traditional, web content management systems that are coupled, there's a very heavy kind of sync and coordination between the view and the backend system there. If we swung the pendulum too far to the other end and had zero, insight or control into the view layer, then it would kind of shift the burden from marketing folks over to, development resources. And, in some ways that could be worse. And so what we were looking for with a specifically with a headless provider, for content management was we want to, if I'm making up a term, go more of a hybrid headless, right? Where we can define some of that, content headlessly, but then also have the ability to have control over how the view gets rendered.
Sure.
And so that was probably the biggest thing. Hey, let's not go too far heavy to where now marketing has zero control over the website, right?
Got it. Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah. So, that kind of flexible component headless world, but also being able to be managed from the business, it sounds like, was one of those key things that's in there.
Yeah. I mean, to give you just to give you something specific, like we call it navigation as a service.
Yep.
The fact that through Amplience we can power our site navigation, it's something that allows marketing to be able to define their own pages, their own routes. They have full control over the SEO side of it, and all of that's done inside of Amplience. And then our website is basically a React Next.js app that then interprets all of that data coming from Amplience and renders the experience.
Got it. So, you clearly we're going to talk about like recipes and all the great content that Amplience is helping with. Any website, especially one with a brand, your goal has to be to convert buyers or browsers to buyers. Talk to us about how does Commerce Cloud fit into the equation? How does e-commerce come into the kind of headless deployment that you all have?
Yeah, and it's kind of, since standing up Amplience, we've been looking at, let's do headless everything, right? So part of that is, communications and the platforms we use for that. Part of that is, as you mentioned, the e-commerce side of things.
Yeah.
In full transparency, I wouldn't say we're quite there yet. That's a project we're working on right now, quite heavily, to make that more of a true headless implementation.
Yeah.
But Commerce Cloud, it's got a path forward for us to not just rely on, their tool's great, but our headless everything approach that we're wanting to stand up. It's great that they have a path for us to, through the Open Commerce API, to be able to bring that in and then execute everything headlessly. And we're still, not at this, we're still not exposed. Credit cards aren't, transacting. We're still PCI compliant and all that fun stuff. It still separates the burden of those responsibilities. Got
it. Yeah, we're actually a part of this this new Commerce API beta program as well. So we're looking forward to see what Salesforce has there as people kind of move to this full headless world. One of the ones I think that's the most popular feature of Traeger for a lot of folks in Amplience is the fact that Amplience content is being sent to grills. It's not the one that we hear all the time. Can you can you render this content on my grill? Talk to us about how that works and what the goals are for that.
Yeah. So right now the screen display is pretty small, and so where we've started is we send grill instructions, recipe instructions to the grill, right?
Yeah. So
if you're cooking, ribs, for example, or a brisket, right? There's certain levels where you may want to vary your temperature, or you're going to go out and you're going to crutch the ribs of the brisket. You're going to wrap it in foil or butcher paper. And then you're gonna, potentially change the temperature, or we've got a super smoke feature that on some of our grills where really pump out a lot of smoke and get that infused into the food. So when we're building out a recipe in Amplience, right, we've just added to the schema definition the ability to provide those grill controls directly with the recipe. And so now, when we're talking about a single recipe, it's not just here's the ingredients, here's the instructions, but it's also, okay, let's look at the Traeger ecosystem of products and services that we offer, and let's centralize all of that. So now, that one recipe can also power the grill and have that be more of an intelligent cook assistant, your sous chef, if you will.
Yeah, I like it. I can't tell you how many times I've had my phone overheat standing next to a grill or by doing anything or getting just stuff all over it. So it's amazing that it can just give you a nice little heads up display. And it's one of those, from a headless content perspective, you can't get, people really perk their ears up again on that type of stuff, because they're like, wait, you're sending content to a grill? People are very, very excited about it. It just seems like, here we are in May of 2020, and last I saw you in person was at NRF in January, and we were talking about just launching the project. You guys are going to get started, and here you're already live. It's incredible, right? About 3 to 4 months time, you'll be able to get a completely new replatform up and running with a headless front end. I'm sure it was super easy, right? And there's no lessons learned, but if you're going to kind of tell some folks in the audiences, they're listening from home, like what lessons learned, what did you do differently? What could you share?
Yeah. As much as it was possible and we did it, I definitely don't recommend it.
Not for the faint of heart, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of long nights, and, a great effort by my team and everyone involved in the project. It was, we had awesome collaboration and teamwork involved. It was by no stretch of the imagination, 1 or 2 person job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this is, it's kind of a fruits of the labor type of situation, where going into this, part of the justification was, look, we're doing this in a headless approach so that we can hire React developers, and they
Mm-hmm.
can dev in their tool of choice, right? They don't have to learn some nuanced kind of pseudo code to accommodate some web content management platform.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so the fact that we could lay out our site how we wanted it, and then say, okay, here's the React components that we need to put in place, and just kind of blitz it from that perspective is kind of a testament to some of the benefits of going headless, right? And then another thought that I throw out there is just fail fast. Like with headless means there's a lot less that's kind of given to you and defined for you. You kind of have to do that yourself. And so we learned very quickly that we were never going to get it right if we tried to plan it all out from the beginning. And so a lot of it was, working with our UX team, and here's what we want to happen. We don't know how to make it happen yet, so let's try this.
Yeah.
And so failing fast, got us the answers of the things that we didn't know, and I think thanks to some of those things, we were able to jam that out as fast as we did.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you're live now with web, mobile, all from a nice little Next.js app, as you talked about. Sounds like you've also gone out and done Android and iOS, as well as the grills. So what's next? What's on the horizon? And we are extremely excited to hear what your near-term future looks like.
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit before. We're kind of championing this headless everything mantra, and so definitely getting headless commerce up to snuff, and getting that all streamlined. It's a little bit, it's not as ideal as we'd like to see it right now.
Sure.
So we definitely want to get that up and running, and then communications. Let people tell us how they want to be communicated to from any device, and have that translate all across the Traeger digital ecosystem. And then if you only want to be communicated to in text messages, Tom, then we'll send you all of your comms in text message, right? So being able to power those comms headlessly is another big ticket item for us.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I think that's pretty incredible stuff that you've done. We'll get you off the hot seat here, but with one last question, right? So you talked about all the grilling you've been doing through coronavirus and quarantine. What's your go-to recipe if someone's kind of getting on their Traeger for the first time? In fact, our CEO James Brook is a converted Traeger aficionado now. I think he's out there grilling every day. What's the go-to? What's our go-to summer barbecue on the grill recipe that you'd recommend?
Yeah, it's so hard. I've been
it's like
smoker
trying to pick your favorite child or something like that, right? So
right. Yeah, it's funny. I've been a smoker for about 6 years now, and so I've done a lot of stuff that that I really enjoy, and part of the fun is just experimenting. Say, hey, what do I have in the freezer or the fridge? I've got some chicken. Well, let me try a different way of preparing the chicken or whatever. But I'm a big fan of wings, and if you browse our website, we've got some great personalities. Chad Ward, Matt Pittman. So it's kind of fun to look through those through some of those influencers, those personalities, and look at what are some of the recipes that they do, and give those a shot. But Chad Ward's got a great recipe for wings 3 different ways.
Nice.
Matt Pittman's brisket recipe is on point.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go wrong with pretty hard to go wrong with anything. But I tend to enjoy those too.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm a big wing fan, so I'll have to check that one out as well myself. Well, cool, man. Look, we appreciate you taking the time here. This is incredibly valuable stuff for the folks out there in the community. I mean, you guys are really first movers out in this headless world. We're happy to be a part of this story, and can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with us today.
Absolutely, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right.